Right. So you're probably wondering how this whole election thing is going to shake things up in the financial world, right?
Yeah, it's a big one coming up, and everyone's kind of holding their breath to see what happens.
Totally. We're doing a deep dive today. Going to be talking stocks, dollar, even crypto, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
We've got some top-notch analysis here that breaks it all down.
Yeah, we'll be looking at the two main contenders, Trump and Harris.
Exactly. Trying to figure out what their policies could mean for, everyday investors. Where should they be putting their money? What should they be watching out for? All that good stuff.
It's not just about, numbers going up and down. We're talking about actual industries that might boom or bust depending on who takes the Oval Office.
Right, exactly. So, to kick things off, let's talk stocks. Wall Street seemed to have a bit of a soft spot for Trump, right?
Yeah, they tend to like his policies.
But why is that? Our analysis actually dug into this, and it looks like a big part of it boils down to those corporate tax cuts he pushed through.
Oh, yeah, those were huge. Lower taxes mean companies get to keep more of their profits, and that's music to investors' ears.
It's pretty simple math, right? More money for companies usually means their stock prices go up.
Exactly. And this is especially good news for certain sectors, like think about manufacturing. Lower taxes could mean those companies have more cash to pour back into their businesses.
Yeah, building new factories, upgrading equipment, hiring more workers, that kind of thing.
Exactly. All that stuff fuels growth, and growth is what gets investors excited.
But then we've got Harris on the other side, and she's talking about potentially raising corporate taxes. Not exactly what Wall Street wants to hear, right?
No, not really. Higher taxes can definitely eat into corporate profits, and that can make investors a bit skittish.
But there's a flip side to this whole tax thing, isn't there? It's not as simple as Trump good for stocks, Harris bad for stocks.
Absolutely not. It's way more nuanced than that. Harris is really big on renewable energy and affordable housing. Those sectors could see a ton of investment and growth if she gets her way.
It's like a trade-off, right? Maybe less growth in some of those traditional sectors, but a potential boom in areas that align with Harris's priorities.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Each candidate's approach creates a different landscape of winners and losers in the market. It's not black and white at all.
Okay, so we've talked about stocks. Let's zoom out a little bit and look at the U.S. dollar. How
Okay.
could the election impact its value on the global stage?
Well, the dollar's strength is all about perception, really. If the rest of the world sees the U.S. economy as stable and growing, they're more likely to invest here.
Yeah, makes sense. They want a piece of the action.
Exactly. And that demand for U.S. assets, that's what drives up the value of the dollar.
Now, Trump's policies seem to be all about attracting that foreign investment, right? Tax cuts, deregulation, making it easier for businesses to operate here.
Yep, that's the idea. And based on that, we could see a stronger dollar if he's back in the White House.
But a strong dollar isn't always a good thing, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it can make U.S. goods more expensive overseas, making it harder for our companies to compete globally.
Oh, that's a great point. And it's a key part of the Economic Balancing Act that any president has to deal with. Attract investment, yes, but also support domestic industries.
It's a tightrope walk, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And speaking of that balancing act, it leads us nicely into how a Harris administration might handle things. If she sticks with current trade practices, we could actually see the dollar weaken a bit.
Interesting. And what would that mean?
Well, a weaker dollar could actually be a boon for U.S. exports. They become cheaper for other countries to buy, which could make them more competitive. It's all interconnected, you see.
So it's not just about what happens here in the U.S. It's about how our policies ripple out and affect the global economy.
Exactly. It's a global game, and the U.S. election is a major play.
All right, so we've covered stocks, we've covered the dollar. Let's step into the future a bit and talk about crypto.
Yes, crypto. Can't have a conversation about the future of finance without it these days, can we?
It's everywhere. It's like everyone's suddenly an expert on Bitcoin.
It's definitely captured the public imagination, and for good reason. This whole decentralized digital currency thing has the potential to really shake things up.
Yeah, no kidding. And Trump has been pretty vocal about being pro-crypto, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, he's definitely on board. And you've got people like Elon Musk, a major influencer, throwing his weight behind it too. That kind of high-profile support really legitimizes the space.
It's like a stamp of approval, right?
Yeah.
Makes people feel like, okay, maybe this crypto thing isn't just a fad. Maybe it's actually the future.
Exactly. But, and here's the big question mark, what happens to crypto under a Harris administration?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? More regulation, less, nobody really knows.
It's a total unknown, and that uncertainty, it's making the crypto world a little jittery.
Imagine that. The crypto world, known for its stability, suddenly getting nervous.
Well, it's a classic example of how unpredictable events, like elections, can trigger volatility in the markets.
And by volatility, we're talking about prices going haywire, right? Swinging up and down like a roller coaster.
That's it. And it all comes down to human psychology, really. Investors hate uncertainty. When they don't know what's going to happen, they get anxious. They start making moves based on speculation, not solid information, and that's how you get those wild price swings.
It's almost like the entire financial world is holding its breath right now, waiting to see how the election plays out.
That's a really good way to put it. And it's important to remember that behind all the charts and graphs and numbers, there are real people, people whose jobs, savings, retirement funds, all of that are tied up in these markets.
So what's the big takeaway here? What should people be thinking about as we head into this election?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that this election could have a massive impact on how the financial world unfolds over the next 4 years.
Yeah, no kidding. Each candidate has a very different economic vision, which means different sectors are likely to benefit or struggle depending on who wins.
Exactly. And that's what is also fascinating. There's so many potential scenarios, so many potential winners and losers. It's a real-life economic thriller playing out right before our eyes.
All right, so before we wrap up, I've got to ask you the big question. What kind of financial future awaits us? Are we going to see more of the same trends we've been seeing, or is this election going to usher in a whole new era?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Honestly, it's impossible to say for sure, but what I can say is that the potential for change is huge. We could see policies that reshape entire industries, shift global power dynamics, and create opportunities that we can't even imagine right now.
Wow, that's a lot to process. So what's your advice for people who are trying to make sense of all this and figure out how to navigate their own finances?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay informed. Pay attention to what the candidates are saying, do your own research, and try to understand how their policies might impact the sectors and assets that you're interested in.
Don't just bury your head in the sand and hope for the best.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your finances. This election is a huge deal, so make sure you're ready for whatever the outcome may be.
All right, that's some great advice. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And to everyone listening out there, stay tuned, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
Absolutely. The future is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to shape it.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. Until next time, folks, keep those brains buzzing and those wallets happy.
See you next time.